With the latest new release from the Monarch Legacy of Monsters, we are back with yet another marvelous video. After 2 episodes worth of a dry patch, with this plot really not getting anywhere, episode 6 certainly proves to be a banger, returning the show back to its former glory. And thank God they brought back the 50s timeline, because now we can totally revel on some simultaneous young show, old show action. After a pretty painful 2 episodes focusing on Kentaro and Kate's sappy pasts, Terrifying Miracles truly lives up to its name, because we see our favorite kaiju, Godzilla, make a hauntingly beautiful comeback, both in the present timeline and in the 1950s. So in the previous episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the show exclusively unfolds within the backdrop of the 2010s. After May, Kentaro, Lee Shaw and Kate were caught and isolated within cells by Monarch, but soon Tim and Devals realize that the Randa Kids do not have any new information that the Monarch is not already aware of. Hence, after Verdugo's approval, they decide to let them go, strategically electing to monitor their movements in the hopes of anticipating a direct trail to Hiroshi Randa. Meanwhile, Verdugo takes matters in her own hands and attempts to extract information from Lee Shaw regarding Hiroshi and his research. But Old Shaw did not give a rat's ass to her threats and simply refused to spill anything he knew. On the other hand, the trio goes to San Francisco in search of Hiroshi, and Kate finally breaks the news of her father's other family to her mum, Caroline. After a heated argument, Caroline and her so-called colleague James sneak the trio into the San Francisco attack zone, which is now guarded by the military. After almost getting arrested by the military, the trio gets to Hiroshi's office and finds a map revealing the existence of the Hollow Earth beneath the terrestrial realm of Earth. Now, we already know that the Hollow Earth is where all the Titans live and is linked to the surface through gravity-defying portals and intricate tunnels. Unfortunately, the secrecy of this newfound knowledge is short-lived, as May succumbs to Devals' coercion and ends up selling out Kate and Kentaro. So, episode 6 sets the stage for heightened tension and complex dynamics within this evolving narrative, while giving us juicy chunks of Godzilla scenes. Now let's find what mysteries did this episode reveal. So without wasting another moment, let's get right to it. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
I don't care.
Before Keiko and Bill Randa were married, Lee Shaw and Keiko were clearly hooking up. While in the previous episode we get a closer look at Kate Randa's backstory and what she went through in San Francisco. Finally, she and her brother Kentaro figure out how to track down their dad, setting the stage for the juicier events in the episode 6, because things get pretty interesting as the scenes jump back and forth between past and present. Now, episode 6 spills the beans on Leland Shaw's past, making it a key player in the whole Monarch storyline. We learn more about what he did back in the 1950s, and it seems like his actions back then are tied up with what is happening with Monarch and the Titans today. Okay, so episode 6 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters kicks off at the 1955 Summer Bowl thrown by the American Defense Industry Federation. So we have got Puckett, the Naval Force and the Air Force in the mix, along with Lee Shaw and Keiko. Now, both Lee and Keiko would rather be anywhere else, but unfortunately they are stuck there because at the end of the day, the Department of Defense is bankrolling the Monarch project. Trouble is, if they do not keep the Department of Defense happy, things could get really messy, and adding to this headache, we see that Puckett and his crew are not exactly Keiko's biggest fans, because she is a Japanese woman, so there is some seriously ugly racism going on. But Lee, being the stand-up guy he is, tries to lift Keiko's spirits and take her to the dance floor. And if you're a sucker for old school love, this scene is really cute, especially since the crowd is mostly full of white boomers, and Lee dancing with Keiko helps normalize her presence amid all the offensive vibes. Plus, we witness them sharing a certain moment which makes it seem that the racist crowd of the ball has faded away and it is just them in the room twirling around. But here's where it gets interesting, as Lee and Keiko decide to take their relationship up a notch. Right then, Randa hits Lee up about some anomaly. Now, a quick side note. I totally thought Keiko was cheating on Randa during this whole thing. But then I remembered we are in flashback mode, and this 1950s storyline is way back before Randa and Keiko tied the knot, or before Keiko's wild apparent demise in that glowing egg creature pit. Like damn, that episode feels like a lifetime ago. Anyway, just when things between Shaw and Keiko were about to take a serious turn to their bed, if you know what I mean, William Randa, busy at Monarch headquarters, instead of partying, hits up Shaw with an urgent message. And of course, the timing could not have been worse, and Shaw could have clearly ignored it if it were not for Keiko. So, after ditching the romance for work, the duo leave to meet Randa, and as it turns out, he's got some interesting news that takes them back to Japan, where they have those radiation spike readings similar to what Keiko picked up in the Philippines a few years back. So Bill and Keiko decide to go to Japan to check if there really is a possibility of another Titan sighting. Now the problem is, Shaw is stuck with a different mission, which is likely more important for the future of Monarch. He has to present some crucial data to General Puckett to secure more funding for Monarch, so of course, Bill suggests they divide and conquer. Now here comes the tough part, as Shaw is caught in a dilemma with Puckett's seeing big potential in him, then eyeing him as the next Monarch big shot. But Shaw here is evidently worried about Keiko and wants to ditch the presentation to go to Japan. Mind you, Shaw's got the chance to lead the show from the top, making the calls instead of being out in the field. But here's the kicker. He would rather be where Keiko is, instead stuck behind a desk and living a white picket fenced life. So he drops everything and leaves for Japan, where they share a rather heartwarming conversation about their relationship moments before they sight Godzilla. What did Dr. Suzuki create? After Randa and Keiko touch down in Japan, they meet Dr. Suzuki, the man with the gamma radiation machine. Soon Suzuki spills the beans that something out there is responding to his radiation. Soon he explains that what looks like a giant metal ball with wires stuck on it was actually the original version of the Titan calling phone from Godzilla, master of monsters. After knowing that this device can lure Titans out of hiding, Bill and Kate wait for this gizmo to work its magic and bait a monster to come out of its hiding. This was basically a gamma radiation simulator, which was something always used to actively draw Godzilla out. Meanwhile, back in the States, as mentioned before, Lee overrules General Puckett's orders and basically risks his entire career to drop everything and go to Japan in the name of love. Back in Japan, the scientists are on edge, waiting for a Titan to take the bait. This is when Lee shows up to Japan's Monster Island, but Keiko is not at all thrilled, thinking Lee has been letting his emotions cloud his judgment. Keiko clearly cares for the greater good than her own personal affairs, but Lee does not care and expresses his feelings and the conversations in a romantic kiss. Not even a nuclear bomb blew Godzilla up. So just as Lee and Keiko are lost in the middle of a passionate kiss, the giant Titan-calling metal ball stops beeping and they turn to see it soaring through the air, almost hitting them. It seems like something huge threw it across, and then we witness dorsal fins appearing out of the water. Next we see a magnificent Godzilla make his grand entrance, rising from the depths. Even Bill and Suzuki get a front row seat to this terrifying spectacle. Soon we get to know that the bait worked and Godzilla's alive and kicking, proving the military did not actually manage to take him down as they initially thought in Bikini Atoll. But we see Godzilla disappear into the water, heading away from civilization. Meanwhile, Keiko could not help but beam with joy at the sight of the Titan, alive and well, despite having faced the full force of a nuclear bomb right before their eyes just a year ago.
What's going on?
In the Navy, we call it a change of command.
General Lee Shaw gets demoted. After going back to the States from Japan, Shaw, Miura and Randa roll back to the Monarch base. Lee seems all fired up to spill the beans to General Puckett about Godzilla's comeback in order to save their funding for Monarch. But Keiko, on the other hand, is putting on the brakes, worried that blabbing will just prompt the military to whip up even deadlier weapons to kill the Titan. So they stroll into Monarch headquarters only to find a new commander in the hot seat, as the Navy has taken over the Monarch base because apparently Puckett lost all faith in him, while he decided to bolt to Japan. Soon we get to know that Lee has been replaced and demoted for his little unauthorized globe-trotting stint, costing him his career. We see Keiko getting super upset with Shaw because she knows that if he had not impulsively followed her to Japan, none of this would have happened. Deval betrays Monarch. So we switch gears to the 2010s, catching up with an older Lee Shaw who is getting chauffeured around by Monarch with his hands tied and head covered. In a total plot twist, which we do not see coming from 100 miles away, Deval has a change of heart and decides to break Lee out by offing the guards while they were transporting him to someplace. But here is the catch. Deval threatens Lee that he needs to step up more than Monarch in dealing with these colossal titans. As a no-bullshit kind of guy, Lee is real about it and admits that although he was clueless on how to stop these giant creatures, he has got a pretty good bead on where the whole monster emergence is headed. Soon we get to know that Lee has been trying to sound the alarm at Monarch for a pretty long time now, but they have been rather diligent in brushing him off as the crazy guy type. Now Lee has got some serious questions for Deval, like why the sudden help? And here's the kicker. Deval spills that her sister Sandra was in Janjira, that Japanese city wrecked in the opening scene of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. Now she's on this mission to make a real impact, because as far as she's concerned, Monarch's not exactly pulling its weight. On the other hand, while the Randa siblings and May were trying to figure out their next move, they are almost shocked to see Shaw and Deval show up at Kate's place in San Francisco. Now it is clear that it was May who gave them the address, but soon Lee tells them about how Deval pulled some ninja moves and busted his ass out of Monarch's grip. While the trio refuses to trust anything, Shaw pitches an idea that they can be each other's wingmen against a massive G-Day-sized threat, which he is convinced is looming just around the corner. When the kids tell him about tracking down their father, Lee spills that Deval has got the hookup to get them wherever they need to be. Soon we get to know that the Randa kids believe Hiroshi might be in the Algerian desert and thus team up with Shaw and Deval to reach their destination. Meanwhile, Tim and Deputy Director Verdugo decide to play detective in Hiro Randa's office in San Francisco, trying to suss out where the Randa kids are off to. As Tim digs into Hiroshi's office, he deciphers some cryptic dots on the wall and soon pieces together all the info on Godzilla's moves and Randa's satellite readings, realizing the kids are on a quest for their father in Africa. On the other hand, off to the Algerian desert, Shaw, the Randa kids, May and Deval follow the Randa trail, but Kate's still side-eyeing Shaw and Deval and the ex-Monarch crew they have gathered. As trust issues galore, Shaw and Deval swear they are doing what they think is best and are not just throwing the Monarch line. But Kate is not quite buying it. So May, being the voice of reason, reminds Kate to trust, like she trusted Kate's back in Alaska. Until now, the drama's thick, but they are rolling with it.
Dad! Up here! Dad!
Hiroshi is alive. Alright, in the primary timeline, the gang finally stumbles upon Hiroshi in action in the middle of the Algerian desert. He has got the same mini-Titan calling phone that we know from the 50s Flash, and his kids are over the moon to finally see him. Now, like any normal person, I thought this would be all happy tears like warm reunion, but as the siblings peep through the binoculars, it gets evidently clear that Hiroshi is not waving. In fact, he is urgently signaling for them to leave everything and get out of there. But Kate and Kentaro are still waving back, thinking it's a joyful moment. But the mood takes a nosedive when Hiroshi packs up and peels out with his truck, while suddenly a chopper swoops in with Tim and his Monarch crew. They cracked Hiroshi's map code and tracked the gang down. But before they can take any action, the ground starts breaking apart, which automatically sets the stage for another Titan sighting. Soon the ground cracks from within and Godzilla pops out, giving Kate an intense side-eye lock before strutting away and almost turning the gang into puddles with that tail swoop. But on a relatively brighter side, amidst this chaos, the Monarch chopper gets a little too cozy with Godzilla and crashes. How does this episode end? So after Godzilla's latest rampage in the main timeline, the team is left in a serious moral bind. Shaw mentions to the Randa Kids that he wants to go after Godzilla, thinking he can help the big guy out with whatever trouble he has been facing. And this was probably Shaw's gripe with Monarch all along, thinking they were wrong for trying to thwart Godzilla and the Titans instead of lending a helping hand. Now, of course I do not blame them for calling Shaw crazy, because which sane person even thinks of helping a kaiju? Anyway, the Randa Kids are of course not vibing with Shaw's superhero Titan rescue plan and basically call him batshit crazy for going after a kaiju who has brought nothing but destruction. This is where they split ways, with Shaw and Devals on Godzilla duty and Kate, Kentaro and May trying to figure out their next move on their quest to track down their father yet again. However, a guilt-ridden May confesses that it was she who informed Devals about their plans. Apparently, she was running from some serious baggage, living in exile in Japan under a fake alias. When Monarch dug up her secrets, she cut a deal to rat out the gang so she could finally return to the good old USA. Naturally, Kate is hit hard by this betrayal, giving May the cold shoulder and turning down her offers of help and cash for their expedition. Shocked and disgusted, the Randa siblings walk away from May as the episode wraps up. What is our verdict on this episode? Now, Terrifying Miracles may start a bit slow, but it packs in significant plot developments as compared to the past two episodes, delivering Godzilla appearances in both past and present timelines. Plus, the interpersonal conflicts and brewing fallout among the human ensemble most definitely adds depth to the narrative. In the flashback storyline, Watt Russell's portrayal of Shaw's internal conflict, torn between personal desires and Monarch's goals, was shockingly palpable, and despite my reservations about his romance angle with Mari Yamamoto's Dr. Miura, all the actors bring out a unique authenticity to their roles, as the return of the flashback trio injects a refreshing change after their absence in previous episodes. In addition to that, Dr. Suzuki's addition adds a fun dynamic to the plot, and of course Godzilla's surprise appearance truly heightens the excitement. However, the mention of Monster Island feels like a missed opportunity, given that the show keeps name-dropping after Toho monsters yet barely follow up on any. As for the present-day narrative, the robust character dynamics and the unexpected return of Hiroshi for sure contributes to a gripping twist. The exploration of ideological conflicts within Monarch adds quite the intrigue, and Joe Tippett's team, who has been criticized by many as a lame, unnecessary character, truly shines in the Columbo bit, adding some element of fun. On top of that, Godzilla's entrance not only serves as an epic action sequence, but also steers the story in a captivating new direction. It raises intriguing questions, especially considering the Monsterverse canon suggests that Godzilla should not have been sighted during the Legacy of Monsters timeline. Of course, the possibility of Monarch covering it up adds an additional layer of mystery. But to what purpose? Because why is Shaw so keen on assisting Godzilla, and what exactly is his game plan? These questions, if addressed satisfyingly in the future episodes, could contribute to an impactful conclusion for the show's first season. Plus, the anticipation of learning about May's past and the troubles she has faced adds another layer of complexity, promising more revelations in future episodes. Overall, Terrifying Miracles is an entertaining and well-crafted episode, effectively laying the groundwork for the rest of the show in an engaging manner. What can we expect in the upcoming episode? At this stage, it is getting pretty evident that Godzilla plays a crucial role in the impending disaster or the major event unfolding in Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. Given Hiro Randa's relentless pursuit of the colossal lizard, aiming to either aid or thwart him, it is actually a safe bet to assume that the Randa Kids are probably getting drawn into something much bigger, as their quest to bring their father back is bound to intertwine with a larger narrative. And then there is Leland Shaw, whose past is eventually unraveling, leaving us scratching our heads over how his earlier decisions are shaping the current events in Monarch and the broader global scenario. With that being said, get ready for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Episode 7, dropping on Apple TV Plus on December 22nd, 2023, titled Will the Real May Please Stand Up? And clocking in at 48 minutes, it seems like this one's putting the spotlight on May. From the looks of it, Episode 7 might delve into May's shady past, flashing back to her days as a crook and unveiling the reasons behind her Tokyo disappearing act. And maybe in the present, May will journey back to her old life and hit a snag when she discovers things are not exactly the same as how she left them. Maybe she will find out something super troubling about her family, which will push her to reluctantly reunite with Kate and Kentaro. Meanwhile, in the 1950s timeline, we can expect to see Bill, Lee and Keiko in for a wild ride, adjusting to their new boss and his off-the-charts demands. And a fallout between Keiko and Lee after Lee's impulsive blunder could stir up some romantic flames between Keiko and Bill, which would probably be how they got married. Plus, it remains to be seen who exactly old Lee in the present timeline tracks Godzilla down and help him out. Even if the episode ending with some banger revelations, the drama seems to be far from over. I think we might just be lucky enough to see a new kaiju in the next episode. And my expectations now are very high, because episode 6 has really picked up the pace. Plus, a nuanced portrayal of May's past life might just be another piece of the puzzle which might fit right into this kaiju-ridden mess. Anyway, now that we have come to the very end of this video, what do you think might happen in the next episode? Let us know in the comment box below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.